Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanside RaceCanada.world, and of course on our YouTube channel. We are so excited to welcome in the editor-in-chief of Inside Track Magazine, Greg MacPherson, to the show. Greg, we are so excited to have you. It's a little bit weird this year. We're all stuck indoors once again, but we are so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just nice to be talking about racing. And I was listening to some of your episodes earlier today, and going back with say Todd and Lewis and Dave Bradley, and I think Todd mentioned it's just nice to be talking about racing and putting a spotlight on Canadian racers. It's what we try to do with the magazine, and it's cool what you guys are doing with Fanside.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We definitely want to shine that spotlight because, racing in Canada is still not, recognized as much as we'd say, hockey is, and it probably won't ever get to that point. But what I want to start off with is a question about last year. And, being in charge of a magazine that covers all sorts of Canadian racing, you would have a really good sense of this as to how was the Canadian racing scene affected by the pandemic? Was it as severe as maybe we think? Is it really hurting, or was it just a bit of a break? What is your opinion on that?
I think it really got hurt.
Yeah.
I dealt with like the groups, like say through Mark Rinaldi at Brighton Speedway, those guys that were trying to organize and set guidelines that they could try and open up a little sooner under. And they've got to get by all winter long, and they've got to have a good season. It's like very short window. They make their money. Otherwise, they're paying taxes. They've got to pay themselves. They've got to try and keep going. So I think it was awesome what some of the series were able to do, that were able to stream and make it work for them that way, like Pinty Series or APC, or some of the one-off events. But by and large, for the tracks, they were largely dormant, and if they were allowed to have 100 people in or less or whatever, it was just they weren't able to make that work. So I think a lot of people pitched in and said, kind of forget about the money thing. Let's just all try and get some racing in, and like the economics don't work. But I don't know how workable that is, long term. So certainly hoping for better things this year.
And does it come down to government restrictions that you think is really going to be whether or not 2021 is going to be a season with fans at the racetrack? Is it just going to be coming down to government restrictions?
I think so, because that's all we're dealing with. They just they say what we can do, how many of us can get together, and what types of places. So, and it's very frustrating with the contradictions. Like you see,
Yep.
I come home from the cottage or whatever, and you're Sunday night going by Yorkdale Mall, and it looked like Christmas shopping all last summer. And then you're like, really? Like you couldn't have 200 people at Jukasa or Peterborough Speedway? Like everyone could have their own space. Like it's just,
and it's outside.
Ridiculous. And they just whacked racing hard last year. It's like they've done this year with skiing. There was, to me, no reason why that wasn't allowed. Like, they spent all their money on protocols, like all the security measures, made snow, big expense, and then the day before shut it down. So you don't know who's making decisions or what they're dealing with, but I think we're in the situation now. It's been very frustrating waiting for vaccines. They've been promised, they haven't been delivered. It's supposed to start happening sooner. They've got to roll it out. They've got to take care of the vulnerable people who can really die from it, and then let things start opening up again, including racing and doing things.
So just before we get to Graydon, I'm sorry I'm going off right the bat, but this is a hot topic, and I just want to get your opinion on, if for whatever reason we don't get 2021 fans at the track, is this extremely critical for racing in Canada, or is it going to be able to last another year?
I think if they take care of the critical people, I think the start of the year is not going to be great. Like I was talking to Todd Lewis today, and say April, May into June, you're probably not going to have fans there, but that's not the end of the world, I don't think, for the facilities. But I think once it starts to warm up, I don't know how they get through another year. I saw one of the government programs, and it mentioned, racing facilities, and it almost sounded like spare change what they're offering. So they just need nice sunny Saturday nights and Sunday afternoons or whatever, and they got to be able to open, or else I don't know how they keep going. It's tough.
Graydon.
I think they have to look at it. We have to be in the situation at the time to know just how bad it's going to be or how good it's going to be. Hopefully, by then we're maybe on the backside of another wave 2, wave 3, whatever it's going to be. But they have to look at it when they are talking about in terms of safe gathering places. Racetracks are probably among the safest sporting venues and outdoor activities. Like you say, if Jacasa holds 10,000 people, let them operate at 30% and space us all out. It's revenue for the tracks and everything. And I think that, as you said, it's sort of a make or break situation. It's those seats are there for a reason, right, Greg?
Yeah, it's tough, and I don't know how much longer people can take it. You see the numbers going down. I know there's talk about variants and everything, but I don't know. At a point, it just looks like control. There are other places that seem to be operating and handling it quite well. Like they tested people. They went into the Super Bowl. We're a couple of weeks out. No big thing. There wasn't a big rush. Down the road, Buffalo. You watch playoff games. People got tested. They went in. No big, rate of infections in Buffalo. Like at some point, you just got to say the cure is worse than the disease at this point.
Yeah, and you have to look at it. I mean, in terms, people's spirits are broken at this point, and if looking at it from a mental health standpoint, if this puts smiles on people's faces, even if it's 3,000 instead of, the short track nationals might be a question mark in terms of cross-border travel and that sort of thing. But like just looking at the amount of people that you can comfortably seat in a racetrack and just the mental health, like the good state of mind that comes with that, it's good for the racers, it's good for the track operators, and it's damn good for the fans too.
Yeah. So it's funny, you get so torn. Like one minute you're thinking this is going, the other minute you think it's going to go the other way. So like on the one hand, I'm so excited to think of like going to that dirt race, the Pinty Series race at a weekend, and like all the other ones. Like so I think there's no reason it shouldn't happen. Like they should have this thing going by then. We should be giving lots of people shots, take care of the vulnerable people. But then on the other hand, you read stuff and you're like we're not having our Motorama show in mid-March. We're scared to death. We can't have it next year.
Right.
That's a very good point.
You don't know. Like it's just, you're planning, you gotta make out like it's gonna happen. It was funny. I talked to it was John Caselli the other day at Flamborough Speedway, like a longtime owner operator, he and his brother Frank. And they like John said, I got 2 schedules going. Like plan A and plan B. I gotta, I gotta plan for a normal year, but then I gotta plan for another 2020. Like, what can we do?
Right.
Everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sorry, Cam, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, and Motorama last year, this year, unfortunately, wasn't able to happen. And it sucks because this was actually going to be the first, I think, opportunity that Greg and I were going to go down for fan side and try and rep and get in there to catch some of the NASCAR Pinnies and APC and really just racing in general. One of the highlights that's come out of 2020 though was GeForce TV, and they're being able to stream the Oscar Racing Series and the APC late models. As someone who wasn't as familiar with the Oscar hot rods as I am, seeing the list that potentially we could see this year at the racetrack, that's going to give us some hope, at least, that some racing series are looking very, very healthy for the future.
Yes, no, absolutely. That the hot rod series has been one of the success stories. It's been so neat. It caught on. I think they've started the same thing down in the Maritimes. Like just to see someone like Stump and Tom Walters get behind it. And, just so cool. And just even like with Motorama, like the people love the vintage stuff, the old time.
Yeah.
Looks cool. They remember it from the like when they were growing up or what their dad raced or talked about. So yeah, that was so cool. So like when you talk about Motorama, it's just gutting. So
Mhm.
last year, like, oh my God, it was like the Grand Slam. We had Chip Foose come in and we'd expanded and we'd added a whole new truck component. And it was, we love the show. We work like dogs. Like
Yeah.
after
It showed.
we start in the fall, and then basically after Christmas, we say to our families, I'll see you after the show. Like I'm down in my office, I'm in the basement, but it's
Mhm.
like a hermit. It's just kind of like, and they know the deal, and it's so important to our business, and
Mhm.
it takes so much work, and we're just still a small staff that while we're building a show, we're also putting out magazines. So it's a crazy amount of work. So last year to have it where during setup the NBA says canceling our season, and then we had all the protocols in place, but it's like
Ah.
the walls were closing in, and so
Mhm.
while you could still go to the province's casino over at Woodbine and gamble,
Mhm.
there was heat on us. People were saying and calling up the International Center and saying like, "What is going on in your building? Shut it down." So we didn't open on the Sunday, and then it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and here we are.
Oh
Well,
man.
Yeah.
the Motorama show itself, let's talk about it in case we might have some viewers here that aren't aware of what it is. Actually, I'll have to admit I was not aware of what Motorama was until I started seeing Pinty series start talking about it. So can you describe to the viewers what exactly Motorama is?
Sure. So it's in a nutshell, Canada's biggest custom car, hot rod, and motorsports show. It's been going since the early 70s in different incarnations. So legendary promoter named Dizzy Dean Murray started as the motion show in the early 70s and ran it for a long, long time. Um, then it was known as Performance World after that. Legendary promoter Larry King. And for 3 years before we had it, it was Mega Speed. And then this would have been, and I guess next year will be, our 7th year doing Motorama. So I was telling the Bun boys or Bun brothers, the
Yeah.
we we used to do a small racing only show called the
Mhm.
Canadian Motorsports Expo, and
Mhm.
we got into that thinking it was good for the racing community, and it was a small show, but it's a labor of love. And because we did that, the people who run the International Center came to us wanting the traditional start of the March break weekend show to continue because it's always
Mhm.
been successful, and asked us to take it over and merge in the Canadian Motorsports Expo, which we did. So to us, it's been an amazing time. So the gentleman who picks all the cars for the show, he's a legend, Gary Chalice, and he worked for Larry King back when it was Performance World. He's like another dad to me, just the nicest man in the world. It's like I go to SEMA with him, I go to Syracuse with him, and
Ah.
just awesome guy. And we're still trying to get up to speed with the custom cars and hot rods that make up probably 70% of the show.
Mhm.
Amazing people, amazing cars. Like they're passionate, just like racing people are. But then, like so central to us in the show is the racing part of it. Like we want that to be in the spotlight. That's where we're from. So to get you know that room filled with the racers with their amazing cars getting ready for the season, the racetracks being there, things like Rick Sharpless and yesterday's Speedways celebrating the history of the sport. Um, what we do with the stock car and drag racer, Night of Champions on the stage, like that's got to be the coolest thing anywhere. Like I don't think anywhere in the world where do you have like 70, 80 champions from the
Mhm.
year before all show up, get honored in one place. Like everyone goes to a banquet and your 4 champions get a trophy, and that's neat, and they're hanging with their friends. But like for these guys to go up on stage, kids and right up to you know a kart racer at Cornwall Speedway beside APC champion and get trophies, and the whole, it's like thousands of people sitting there cheering them on. We have our celebrity guests help to hand out gifts to them and their plaques, and that is just about the coolest thing about the show for us. That Night of Champions.
Your passion definitely in the description for our viewers that may not be familiar with it definitely comes through. So, I mean, that's a great sales pitch right there to buy a ticket when this gets happening. And like any business, you're forced to adapt, right? And I happen to have the current issue right here, and you have the speed shop in for this 2021 issue. Can you talk about that section of the magazine, Greg?
Absolutely. So in the fall, we would have gone, around Halloween time, we would have gone to SEMA.
Yeah.
We always have a booth at PRI at Indianapolis. Everyone else is in the same boat. All the things they used to do, whether it's racers going down there and finding out the latest parts and doing their research and buying stuff. Like if you're ever at our booth at PRI, it's like Canada Corner. They all just come.
Yeah.
Oh, can I drop my coat here? Oh, there's Scott Steckley. There's whoever. Like we go out to dinner with them at night. It's fun. It's
awesome.
The big joke is we drive to Indianapolis to hang out with Canadians. But for all these people, it didn't happen this year, and our show's not happening. So we just thought, to fill that void, what can we do? So we came up with this idea for Speed Shop, and it's just a way for Canadian companies mostly to promote their goods and services while they're not able to do so in person at shows. And it's totally interesting. I took part 2 weeks ago in this online trade show it was a media trade show that SEMA put together, MPMC, and it was like over 3 days, half-hour sessions, and the manufacturers would ask to book time with you in like an online table, like a Zoom session like this, to chat about their new products. And so like I'm talking to like Holly and Impact and like all these companies that can't go to shows, trying to be creative, trying to connect with the media. I talked to 20 of them over the 3 days probably. Every one of them said they had their best year ever in 2020.
Wow.
That's great.
That's
awesome.
So people still have a job,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't travel, can't go to fancy restaurants and do whatever. They've got money to spend on their personal and racing vehicles, and working on those things in your garage was a safe place. So
it's true.
So, but those are major companies that have the infrastructure. They have marketing departments. They have some guy whose job is to blog every day, and some guy who makes YouTube videos every day. So we're still dealing for the most part with economies of scale, and that's not possible for most Canadian companies. So we thought, okay, what can we do to help get the word out? So it has been really well received. It's all online. So if you go to our website, insidetracknews.com, everything's hot linked. There's a free digital flip book of that Speed Shop section. So please go through that, support Canadian companies. Like anything you can do, check them out.
You tied that together nicely there, Greg. I was just going to say you're in the line of work where you're part of an evolving machine as it is, using like print copy going and a lot of digital things now. And it looks like you've tied it together in a real nice package in lieu of the Motorama show, that it's still getting like if you happen to look at this Inside Track issue, there's helmets, fluids, tires, everything that you would see right in a booth, Greg, right there for you, either on your screen or on the page. And this helps, like you say, stimulate the industry's economy. And
that's our first effort, and it was well received. I think it'll grow. Like that's the calling card for us. It went really well. And we want to help it grow, but
awesome.
Yeah, like you say, it wrapped around it is that cool issue with Jim Bray.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame. Yeah,
that's so cool. So Jim Bray,
Daytona. Yeah,
what a nice man. What a nice man. And for him, like we see him in the pits, and he just had a birthday the other day. I think a pretty high number, and to look back and in his youth and see what he used to do, like the man literally raced in the Daytona 500. So. Anyway,
Joel Robinson speaks very highly of him, and I've never had the pleasure to meet him, and I hope I do. I'm going to make a point when we do get back to the track. Hopefully Jim will be there. It's one of these things, and make his acquaintance, because man, what a contributor to motorsports and Canadian racing, eh?
Yeah, he is an encyclopedia too. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
like tell you race results from something in the 50s or something.
I bet.
Like it's wild.
That's
And
awesome.
like okay, the coolest Jim Bray story. So a couple years ago at Motorama, Jim helped us to bring Bobby Allison up.
Nice. Yeah, I remember that.
I
We were there
remember
for that
that,
one.
Oh my gosh. So we brought him in. His daughter Bonnie was like, okay, he can come, but you pick him up. You make sure he's fed. You make sure he's, gets to bed. Like he's great, but just please take care of my dad, like,
Yeah.
so I was like, oh my gosh. So on the Saturday night of the show, he was there and we thought, okay, we'll go out to dinner after, and everything was shut. Like it was booked. You can't make a reservation at the Keg. We're trying to get him a nice meal. Couldn't do it. So Jim says, oh, come on, let's go to one of my sponsors. I know where to go. So we drove, it was like a half an hour. So it was Jim Bray, Bobby Allison, and I. We go down to, it's a sponsor. I think Aielli's or Aiello's. I hope I get it right. But
I think it's Aielli's. Yeah.
Aielli's. Yeah, it's down in like, I think like Port Credit or New Toronto, or like down on the waterfront kind of. And we go in there, beautiful old time Italian restaurant. I'm sitting there with Jim and his son and Bobby Allison, and Jim being the encyclopedia, he would be like, oh, Bobby, I don't believe Greg knows about how you were the first person to do 200 at Talladega. What he might like to hear that story. So the whole dinner, I was just like, like I was like, it's this. Like,
hard to put food in when your mouth's dropping.
No, yeah, you're just like, this isn't happening. It was like, wake me up. It was just such a cool time, and all because of Jim. Yeah, it was really neat.
Cool.
So you've had Bobby Allison up here. Who are some other guests that you have had for Motorama? Because you've obviously had celebrity guests.
Yeah.
And is there some that that you haven't gotten that's on the list to get
I bet that's a big list.
Oh, I bet it's a big list.
It's an endless list.
Yes.
But it's tough now. Like, it was funny when we had the CME show, we were 2 weeks before Daytona.
Okay.
So we actually had great success with current racers. It was like Kyle Busch, Blake Waltrip, Brad Keselowski, Matt Kenseth, like tons of those guys came, and it was 2 weeks before the racing started. And it was timely. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But now the only drawback of our show in like usually March, 11, 12, 13, 14,
right,
they're usually racing and like out west, even like you can't even, it's not even like they're close that you get them. So we're kind of limited on that front in terms of, like say old timers or whatever. And then also we've been bringing in like celebrity car people. So they might have a crossover. Oh, like a couple of years ago, Ron Capps came, drag racer.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, what a nice man! Like, so cool and normal and down to earth, and he was just awesome. But this last year, if you have a custom car at Hot Rod Show, the whale to bring to your show is Chip Foose. So last year, after years of trying, we got him. He was coming, and then this like BASF was helping out with the lift, and anyway, it was just all perfect and biggest show ever. And COVID happened, and like I think on the Wednesday before, they were shutting down airports, and there was talk of you may not be able to get home. So needless to say, Chip Foose didn't get on the flight from California. So
didn't want to get stuck in Canada, eh?
No, and who could blame him? Like the panic that was going on, the world was caving in. So
yeah.
Anyway, so that we're hoping that once things resume, we hear he's a very nice man, and I met him at SEMA, and he seems like a great guy. So if when we can gear this thing back up again, it would be awesome to get Chip Foose. But we're always open to suggestions. I love the idea, old time racing guys. We always try and poll like, who would you love to see, and try and go for it. Yeah.
So amongst like the publication, Inside Track itself, and Motorama, you also put out a number of programs and everything for series and events, and also focus a lot on motorcycles too, right, Greg?
Yeah. So we've got a magazine. I think it's Canada's only remaining printed motorcycle magazine like that, called Inside Motorcycles. So there's another staff. So I don't even ride bikes. So we've got an editorial staff for that, and
Okay, yeah.
but we're totally into that. But then we'll do, like, as part of that, in our connection with that, we'll do the series program for the Parts Canada Superbike Championship. On the car side, we've done, like, say, Targa Newfoundland programs, Rally the Tall Pines all the time, vintage Canadian Vintage Grand Prix at CTMP, and for every year, but this year, since as long as I can remember, we did the CASCAR program, and I used to do the press releases for CASCAR when Tony Novotny was doing it, and then ever since the NASCAR, Canadian Tire Series and Pinty Series have been in existence, we've done the program for that as well. So a great association with them, going through, all their series directors, and it's great. I love that series, NASCAR Pinty Series, and the energy, and the Pied Piper, Tony Spiteri,
Yes.
just building it up. He's just like a force. You want to follow him. So it's going the right way. It's nice.
My boys and I will say before, we have quite a few years worth of those Pinty Series programs dating back to Canadian Tire Series when I started taking them to the track. And just like in quarantine time, they've been after me a long time, and I've been on a tear of customizing the little Hot Wheels into Pinty Series sort of custom paint schemes. Oh, wow. And we have, fortunately, that we have those magazines, but the numbers in the little pictures with the cars work perfectly for the door and roof numbers. So we've cut a few up. I'm sorry.
That's hilarious.
Cool.
I might be able to help you. It's funny. So the fellow I used to deal with the program on is Sean Gibb. When he the old flagman for the series.
Yeah,
so
the double
he's
flag.
Now with WeatherTech and Northern Performance. So he would help me get all the little things. It was an amazing thing to deal with. He would every contingent, it'd be the night before the program was going to press, and he'd be like, "Oh, so and so's car got this guy helping him out a bit. Can we get him in the sponsors list and stuff?" And he'd also help me with all the door art, the number art.
Nice.
We did a spotter's guide in the middle.
Yes,
the cars and the spread. So he would help me. We'd get them cut out, and they would all. I'd have PNG files of all the numbers from whoever was racing that year. So I don't get rid of any files. So
we don't get rid of any magazines because they're great for little car custom paint schemes.
That is so cool. I have to see that sometime.
Oh man, I'll post them out for her. I'll send you some pictures, Greg.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about the NASCAR Pinty Series. Obviously, that's our premier source on this channel. Is making sure that we can talk about the series. And Graydon has always had a great point when we talk about kind of last year, and that 2019 seemed to be the breakout year almost. Even though it's been around for so long, it was such a great season. And Andrew Ranger, Brett Taylor getting his first win in that fantastic battle with Jason Hathaway at Jukasa, having to go 6 races last year. They've got a full schedule this year. So what is it that you're expecting for the Pinty Series in 2021?
We'll see. I know it's a lot more ambitious this year. I like the double race format. I know where that came from last year. It was just to get maximum races, to be able to get 6 races in. But I think that worked. They've done it in Saskatoon. Popular. The guys behave. They know they got to take care of their cars because they got to do another race. So
somewhat they behave.
There's a couple instances, but they were all pretty good. But I thought it was good last year for what it was. Nothing should have happened. The protocols they put in place. I was honored. I'd go to the races. There was Joel and his TV crew. There'd be one French journalist and myself, and that was the extent of who they'd let in. And we'd have a sign-in time and get your temperature taken. 9 a.m, or I think that was the sign-in time a bunch of times for me. So a lot of waiting around, very careful about the interactions and the masks and everything. So didn't risk bringing any fans in because the 100 people you could let in wasn't worth the problems of being able to accommodate them and safely. So I thought it was really good. It's like for the ones who showed up, it was impressive. Like what that EHR team did, putting so many cars on the track.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was awesome. You'd like to see more. But the funny thing was, like for the Flamborough and Sunset, they were tight and they were bunched up the whole time. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, would you like to see 25 or 30 cars? But there was great action. Like I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I heard you guys talk about, the guys filling in the surprises. So, it was Connor James or Trayton Lapsovich, and just it was neat. Or J.R. Fitzpatrick coming back. Like it was lots of neat things happened last summer when nothing should have happened.
Yeah, exactly. One of the best partnerships I think we've seen in the Pinty series with Party Casino, and all they've done in terms of advertising and being on JR Fitzpatrick and being responsible for him coming back, to the series, the final cast car champion, as somebody that was there, around cast car for so many years. Greg, what was that like to see, cast car legends of sort, him and even former, I know I'm dealing with a cattail that's trying to show up in the screen here. Greg's
put that
busting a gut over it over there, but
you're not gonna put that cat filter on, are you?
every single time we're doing an interview, she has to
I
be.
just see the little dangling tail.
She has to be involved in it every single time. So I'm trying to like maneuver around here, push her out of the way so she'll leave me alone.
I shouldn't joke. My dog could be coming around soon.
we got to see obviously J.R. Fitzpatrick, but also Kenny Forth coming back. And is it something? What is it about? Because for whatever reason, it seems like there's people like Mark Dilley who just carry mix. They hang around,
Yeah.
And,
no, it's so awesome like that, like the legends like that, and like and JR, like I see him, like you go to APC races or different events that Oscar over the years, and like I see him, but it was so cool, like to be there at Flamborough and him in the car, and you just man, you wish something could happen that it could be full time, or that's where his heart is, that's what he wants to work on. Like I know he's still all over the place, but for 22 Racing to prepare neat cars and sponsorships to come together and to make that happen, that was awesome. Right at the end, like it was for Jason Hathaway, who's done so much. Great guy. Like he's fun. Like man, I've gone to SEMA. There are times where he's been at the Apex booth, with working on his brake company, and he's in the booth. And you go out at night with Joel too. Like I've been out, like stays in Vegas stories. They're just fun, nice guys, and Jason's the nicest guy in the world. So to see him and Ed Hackinson and Jamie and that whole crew lifting the trophy, given that Jason's hanging it up, that was awesome to see. To see DJ Kennington win that race, like that felt so good. Like
so nice.
It's funny, and he would tell you like he's someone we all watched like winning at Delaware before he could drive on the streets, like and now he has his birthday around the Indy every year, and I remember the year he turned 40 or that he's 42 or whatever. It's just like, oh my god, DJ Kennington's 40. And but then like he went on that tear when he made it look so easy that one year, and he won 5 in a row.
Oh man.
And you know what, he made out like everyone was special, because he goes, you never know if you win another one, and like for a while it looked like he might not win another one. So when he did, like it was so cool.
I want to say it was like a matter like maybe 3 to 4 years or something like that. He hadn't won or wasn't competitive, and
I think 3 at least. And
at least 3.
And that was the crazy thing. Like just someone who could like nail the setup, just dominate, and then struggle. It's like how does that happen? Like so, it's so competitive. So like I said,
that's why we watch.
They're not a million teams, but they're all good teams.
Well, Greg, about that, we have a 3-time champion sitting on the sidelines. Unfortunately, with what's happened, Mopar was unable to sponsor Andrew Ranger, so he's actually going to go to the RS1 series and race this year, which is actually really exciting, because one of the things that I think when NASCAR came in, we didn't see a Western series anymore. CASCAR used to have the CASCAR West series, but what is it that do you think is behind the lack of Jesus, the lack of sponsorship? Yeah, behind the lack of sponsorship in racing, not just in Canada, because we see it in the United States as well. Is it that there was
Yeah,
a
it's a
lull?
little easier down there. So I think you
Yeah.
guys referenced it earlier. Like you're in Toronto, that's where the dollars are spent.
Hmm.
It's so easy. Like I question marketing departments sometimes and their intelligence. It's so no, it's so easy to be another Me Too company on the boards at Leaf games, and you get to go, maybe you get a box,
Mhm.
and you get to go on a Saturday night and have prime rib and drink all you want and be in the box, as long as you're involved there and still got something on the boards and you're a sponsor. So I know 2008, when everything went to heck,
Hmm.
Mhm.
a lot of people got laid off.
Yeah.
Not one company turned in their keys to their box at
Right.
at the Leaf games.
Yeah.
So, because president gets to be in that box on Saturday night. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
which way are they going to go? So I don't know. Like I tell the story, like a couple years back. I think it was Ron Fellows won in the Corvette at the Rolex, and
Mhm.
you call up General Motors Canada and say, "Hey, you want to do a congratulations ad for Ron?" And they said, "Who's Ron Fellows?" And then
What?
with the year we brought Kyle Busch. I told this one on live. We brought Kyle Busch up to one of the last CME shows,
Hmm.
and then we called Mars, like in the M&M's brand, and we said, "Hey, would you like to participate? Kyle Busch is going to come to the show." And we got, "Who's Kyle Busch?" So we literally laughed, and we said, like, next to the talking peanut, he's your he's your biggest brand asset. You really should Google him, look him up. So
That's so
Yeah.
I just
frustrating.
think people, it's safe to do that. So
Mhm.
that's why, like, my goodness, like, I mention him again, like Tony Spitaria Pinty's,
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
to have the guts and go, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be another little also ran or face in the crowd at these places. So what he's
Mhm.
done with curling and with
Hmm.
Canadian racing, it's amazing.
Yeah.
He's got a very large profile. Like, before they got into it, I'd never heard
Mhm.
of Pinty's. Like,
No.
and now who hasn't heard of Pinty's? Like, and
Exactly.
they've grown the company where
Yeah.
now they're working with, like, Budweiser and NFL Canada, and like they are getting
Oh.
big, but
Mhm.
they built their profile being part of racing and
Yeah, niche
curling and some other
sports.
events that
Yeah.
weren't easy. It's not glamorous. Like, you go to
Yeah.
you go to these races. It's not a schmooze. Like, it's
Mhm.
the places are nice. Like,
Hmm.
Ducaston Motor Speedway is gorgeous, and it'll
Yeah.
be an awesome place to entertain people. But if you're in charge of some marketing account and going, where are we going to spend our money? And they're like, I like the Leafs. So
Yeah.
I
That's
think a lot of lazy people who are doing their brands and companies an injustice from
yeah, and
their
that's
That's
just
lazy
well
it.
put.
decisions. Yeah.
Yep.
That's just it.
That's my soapbox. I see it all the time,
Yeah.
but then I mean, and the same with the media. But I think that's why I'm here, and that's why you guys are here. Like,
Mhm.
Mhm.
if the other papers cared about it, then maybe there wouldn't be a place for us. So
And I think that's why I think we took this opportunity.
Yeah.
Greg was there isn't anybody out there that was doing a YouTube channel, week in and week out talking about the Pinty series. Things go a little bit quiet in the off season, and we can't have that. Like,
This year
not
more than
in
ever.
not in this climate. We need
Mhm.
those corporate companies to come aboard because it's so expensive to run racing in Canada. What do you think? Do you think something scares corporate companies off? Is it that they don't feel they're going to get a return in their investment, or what is it?
Is it
Because
just
I think
ignorance?
I think yeah, I think they don't know it, so it's easier
Yeah.
to stay away from something you don't
okay,
know.
Yeah.
You To pitch it, you'd have to be somewhat brave, because you're going to be in some room saying, we need, some $300,000 something for this program,
yeah,
and they all go, what? Are you crazy? So,
mhm,
like, it is expensive,
yeah,
Yeah.
but there are dividends, and it's crazy brand loyalty. So
yeah,
you see what's going on with Pinty's and different things. Like, I remember years ago, I think it was like 2020 or something, like one of those ABC shows in the States, and it's unparalleled racing fans, their loyalty, the connection they make with these companies pay the bills, they make the racing happen. We have to support these companies. So they took a TV crew to some NASCAR track, and they were like, you know, who drives the Tide car? And everyone, like 100 people, like Ricky Rudd. And then they'd say, like, what type of detergent do you buy? Tide. So
Yeah.
they said, if Tide was worse than the other product, what product would you buy? Tide. Like, why? Because they sponsor Ricky. Like, it's like nowhere else is like that. People,
It's so true.
and
It's
they
so
just they make
true.
the connection. If those sponsors aren't there, the
Yeah.
racing doesn't happen, and racing fans know it, and they support the companies that support racing. So it's a hard call. Usually, it's an amazing fan on the inside that makes these things happen. So I remember at the start of the Mopar program.
Mhm.
Actually, the really neat thing, it was during CASCAR when all the manufacturers got involved. And it was Mopar mostly that got going. It was like Rick Williams and Roy Westlake, like the late Rick Williams. He was awesome. And they were hardcore. And then the GM guys matched it. There was this guy, Larry Fink, came up from the States, like NASCAR country. And he's, win on Sunday, sell on Monday guy. And, sponsored Dan Shurtleff and Kelly Williams and Wade Lee and all these guys. And then Ford stepped it up, Rick Rigby and Craig Chisholmore. And man, it was like battle of the manufacturers, and it was just so professional. And there were fans, and like Richard Brimacombe, bringing the home hardware sponsorship to Don Thompson Jr., getting that going. And it's usually a fan on the inside who's willing to stick his neck out and say, "Come on, this can work for us." And it's nice when it does.
Yeah, I feel like the series has so much potential to get to that, one thing that we haven't seen up here is like a Toyota presence. We know Toyota is so big in the United States programs, in their development programs down there as well, even in their Mexico series, but not so much here.
I keep hearing that is close, like a couple of
yeah?
times here.
Oh, yeah?
With the Pinty series. I don't want to say a team because you don't want to get them in trouble, but
Right.
One of the top teams has been within a hair of that happening a couple of years. Like, ready to flip the switch, ready to carry the banner. And, I'm sure, Tony Lotney, Performance Fiberglass, like, take nothing to make a car.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's essentially just body construction.
Yeah, that's all it is, right?
Yeah. That's hilarious story. Like that's down in London still. So the guy used to run CASCAR. They just make molds. So they'll get a car from a dealership. They'll get a loan or whatever, and they make the molds from it, and then they make the cars. Yeah. That was the cool thing about the series too.
Breaking news right here.
The awesome thing about the series, they would. I think it was like Warncliffe Chrysler or something, like down near Delaware Speedway. It would be like, okay, here you go. Here's the new whatever model, and they'd make molds from it. And that was the cool thing about the CASCAR series, because and now the Pinty series, they look like those cars.
Yes.
So whereas they can't really do that in Cup.
No.
And they could because my God, I remember going to Daytona, like they were arguing about an eighth of an inch or whatever. So how could you ever make the car look like the car? Because they were apples and oranges. You get into early 70s again, make with cars with crazy wings saying, "Oh yeah, we produced 100 of them, so it's legal."
Yeah.
So you can't really do that, but
no,
they could with the CASCAR series and the Pinty series. So that's part of the charm, that those cars really look like, what they look like on the street. It's cool.
And I think that's a lot of people, a lot of we're trying to expand as much as we possibly can to American audiences. And we had a really good week actually with the Daytona coverage that we provided. And a lot of fans were saying how beautiful and how sharp the cars look here. They look like actual race cars, this whole big manufactured, aerodynamic BS that we have to deal with down there, right?
Yeah. I know they've got a huge following. Like, there were a couple of years there, going back to CASCAR, like we're saying Joe Robinson and his dad, the broadcast. So they would run on TSN, and then they'd cut in a deal to like say go on Speed Channel or Speed TV, and so they'd run them right after Cup races. Like, it was incredible. So like it'd be Sunday afternoon or whatever, and then it's like most of us, you're you don't even turn the channel. Like that's
Nope.
what it's on, right? So you just leave it on and like, oh, what's this? So I know he got a crazy reaction, and I think he started doing it again this year. Was it through Mav?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when they put them on down there, I know the Americans watch it and they think it's cool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks so
Yeah.
professional. That's the
Oh.
other funny thing that always kills me, like amazes me about like Cascar and then the Pinty series. Like it is a different model than the
Mhm.
States. Like you go to a cup race, like you're dealing with like hundreds of people involved with a team and they're all getting paid. Like
Hmm.
that's their job. Like back at the engine shop and the body shop and whatever, like those people are all getting paid. Like the Pinty series, like it looks so pro, but
Mhm.
it's guys and their families and their friends, and they might have some staff, but
Hmm.
like it's they've got jobs, they work, and then they work on cars, and then they book their holidays and take their holidays and time them around their trips. Like the dedication and like
Yeah.
it looks professional, but they're juggling and they just do it for the love, and that's what
Hmm.
they and they're you got to be supported by their families because they're all in it together.
And that's what I've been like since I've started. My kids started watching it before we took them to the track, but I mean, I come from a family of fairly strong, with fairly strong work ethic. So a lot of the time when I take the kids to the track and we're watching them in the paddock at CTMP or the pit area at Sunset or where have you, um, I just we just stop and watch them just like, and I make a point of saying to them, and the boys see it now, just like how hard these guys are working and everything you just said. I said these guys all do like things like I do. Like I would like go to work every day of the week, and they this is over and above their work life that they do this. So I mean, that's why we're such fans of it. And then on top of that is just the amazing product that we see. And yeah, we've like how we've talked about the Cascar, the glory days of the large fields and stuff. I mean, we have such quality racing, and like with the economic trends and the way businesses are structured now, we don't have the mom and pop sponsorships like we used to, but just the quality's there, and it's just fun for the whole family. And I think and I hope that this year that some families get to come back to the track and see that again, because it's just good for the brain.
Yeah, I think it might be a rough start to the year, but
Yes.
hopefully when things heat up, you know, they can have those big events and weekly, races for all the tracks and strips and road courses too, because yeah,
But
they need it and we all need it.
in the meantime, at least we have publications like yours, and that was the other thing I was going to get at too. I mean, there are in the landscape of motorsports in Canada, it's nice to be able to just sort of all pull in the same direction, and not no spirit of competition. Like we just all want this to survive and thrive, and it's just I've had a subscription to your magazine for years now, and it's so nice to see all the different series from across Canada that are out there, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have really paid much attention.
That's kind of the thing we were aiming for. Like we
Mhm.
Mhm.
we wanted to present the whole country and all types of racing. So like
Well, mission accomplished.
we'll hear it sometimes, like, if some people just only like drag racing or something, so they would get National Dragster and they don't want to know about anything else. And so th- that's not us. Like we're not going to give them that. Maybe they look at us too, but so many people are just interested in all the different types of racing across the country.
Hmm.
It's funny when you brought up
Like
G-Force earlier. I think it was Drew Castle last summer. I was talking to Clinton Jeffrey, and those guys kind of come from a dirt background, but
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
started doing asphalt races as well. And they were surprised how many people they'd open their eyes. People who hadn't been into the other
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
were very, especially at a time when there was almost no racing, they were very
Yeah.
receptive and got into something they weren't into before. So that's we
Right
hope to
here.
accomplish. Yeah, we hope to accomplish that, and good for them with what they're doing too. Like
Yeah.
it is
Mhm.
neat. Anything that grows it is good for everybody.
Well, we could honestly talk for like 5 more hours.
Yeah.
Um, But
I,
we
I was scared to death thinking it was gonna be like a quiz. I heard you talking to the other guys. Like,
we're just all about chatting, racing, and having fun, and really hoping
That's
to,
it.
I'm really hoping to get, like we talked about previously, is to get more eyes on the stuff, and get more companies interested. We want racing to be around, and so bringing you on was one of the major gets, because this publication, I'm not gonna rub it in your face here or anything like that, but when I was a little kid going to the racetrack, we got the Inside Track magazine with the program, and it was always, I wanted to look at the pictures. I had to look at the pictures of all the cars, follow it, look at all the results. And as I've grown up, I still follow myself. I don't get the actual magazine anymore. I follow the website, but you guys do such fantastic work for
but
for
we do.
everybody in motorsports.
You should check out the magazine though. We do different stuff. So part of what Graydon was saying before, it's really separated. So
Mhm.
the website is press releases and results and that type of stuff. The magazine is mostly features, profiles, commentaries, and like a lot of that stuff doesn't go online. So anyway, check
So
check
My
out a
kids
printed
re-
copy.
So let's do the plug right now, Greg. How can we sign up for the magazine?
So yeah, if you go to insidetracknews.com, up near the top right of the page, there's a subscribe button. So that would be awesome.
Well, honestly, I think Graydon's been talking about this one for a while. So Graydon, I'm going to give you some parting words for Greg before we wrap it up.
Well, I want to tell you too. This every issue that comes into our house gets a ton of mileage, because the boys like to go through it too, and just for the reasons like Cam said, they're kind of the next round of that type of thing, where they love to see all the colorful pictures and just all the different race vehicles, because it does fascinate them. That's on me. I did that. So I that's a badge of honor. I'm not saying that with any shame whatsoever. So thank you for bringing that to our household for several years now, as I said, and hopefully we'll see you around Muskoka here sometime.
Absolutely, yeah. I wasn't kidding about coming to find your barber. If it could be you, that could be it soon if we're still in lockdown. But otherwise,
Yeah.
with the magazine, and anyway, the next issue we're working on is coming out in March. It's volume 25, issue 1. So we're just been at this a long time, and people still like
Awesome.
it, and we're honored that anyone would read it and appreciate the magazine. We thank you so much to anyone who ever reads the magazine.
I'm the cup of coffee and magazine type guy that sits down on Saturday morning and leafs through it. So it's good reading.
Yeah, I'm like that with, like, say, Cottage Life, or
Yep.
like Inside Track, old autos. Like, nothing like sitting down with a coffee and a printed thing. Like,
Yeah, something in your at your
Yep.
fingertips other than the screen.
we
Absolutely.
all look at enough screens. So
That's right. I'm the same way. So yes, thanks very much, Greg.
thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much to Greg MacPherson for coming on. Fanside presented by Remax Jack. Start to pack. Call Remax Jack. We'll catch you all next week on Fanside.